Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry, we are a few minutes behind. Trying to get 3 platforms all happening at the same time is a bit of a technical hitch. So we will start anyway on Zoom and YouTube, but Facebook has gone a bit of hitch. So let that be, because we are all here. So thank you for everyone. Good morning or good now. It is indeed good when we have our mind with ourselves behaving itself properly, not creating too much stories and drama, that we are actually listening to our own mind and clearing it as we go. So what a wonderful way to spend some time with like-minded people and do the meditation this morning. I will first do a short invocation of the affirmation in the great comfort and solace we find in the teachings of the Buddha. When we do, our mind becomes clear and cognizant and kind and wise and very thoughtful, and we become worthy of being used to others when we are switching our own light within us. So therefore, to acknowledge the Buddha, the enlightened one, the historical enlightened one, has been only one so far, by the way. Enlightened ones are so rare. I'm talking about fully enlightened ones. There may be quite a number of people who are enlightened slightly better than you and me, maybe, but fully enlightened one, there weren't many. The Buddha is the only one. So do not idealize anyone to be perfect, because to be perfectly enlightened one is only the Buddha. So don't try to idealize anyone and be part of the large group who doesn't even know that mind could be switched to a new wavelength to see within, and therefore others, all things that is without, become a lot more clearer when we are switched on within. So therefore, to awaken our mind, we call on the Buddha, not as an external theistic god, but rather like a kind of a sleeping dragon. We try to wake up. So, and then when we converse ourselves with the teachings of the Buddha, then that's what makes ourselves to become more woken up. And so therefore we draw great comfort in the teachings, and more so this teaching we draw comfort because it's living tradition. The teachings, we have thousands, millions of people been practicing 2,600 years and going strength to strength. So with this, as I do the Refuge Prayer, please join your hands and call in the best of the state of mind, called enlightened mind, through altruistic compassion and loving kindness. We can be beneficial to each other, and we will also see more good of others that we usually do not get to see because we are distracted. So when we have refuge, we see good in everyone. Even good in the most difficult situations we can see. And there are no difficulties that are really difficult from its own side. It's just question is how much skill we have to transform that. So the refuge is being able to bring the tool and use the problem and work with the problem and then transform them in great feat. So that practice is taking refuge, and we generate loving kindness and compassion because we have refuge to all sentient beings. We make commitment to practice forgiveness and compassion, tolerance, non-violence, of course, if we do that, we'll be very joyful. And as a result of that, we are able to remain in great equanimity. Things and place, situations, we can't change them too quickly because we have to bear with ourselves. We can remain equanimously and things would have changed even before you wanting them to. So we need a lot of equanimity. We can't practice impatience and I want my way now type of childish way. We need a great degree of equanimity. When our mind is in our hand, we have a lot of equanimity, and equanimity makes ourselves to see the change, momentary changes happening. Subjective momentary changes can then see the things that were are no longer are. They never were for long. They need not to be playing up in our mind when we have already understood that. So that's real refuge. So let's do that. O yenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Haite Refuge Prayer Bhavachu Ajyadala Ajare Buddha Vajrabe and Buddha Dhamma Sangha Haite Refuge Bhavachu Ajyadala Ajare Buddha Vajrabe and Buddha Dhamma Sangha Haite Refuge Bhavachu Ajyadala Ajare Buddha Vajrabe. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness. may they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to those near and far. So now we sit in the correct posture. We'll do the meditation in 3 slots. During the first slots, we focus just to keep our whole attention in the stillness of keeping the correct posture of the meditation. And we consciously scan the posture. We are one-pointedly, actively guarding the posture, knowing what it signifies, and scanning it in your own pace, and mindfully observing the one-pointed stillness of sitting and minding the correct posture. From the feet all the way to the crown, we scan the posture, know what they signify, check and correct as you scan up and down, and feel the qualities of stillness, balance, awareness, and insight. Use number of rounds that constitute one good bout of effort, during which you don't compromise, but try to do that number of rounds of the scanning of the posture. After each good bout of effort, take a short, sharp mini break in order to avoid your overexertion or non-application. Make sure that you're not bored or dull or distracted or forgetful to do what you're meant to be doing, and don't give in to anything, but simply one-pointedly hold your attention mindfully in the posture, from the feet to the lips, to the teeth, to the gaze of eyes, how much you tuck the chin in, how balanced the shoulders are, how straight the back is. All of these are dutifully guarded and checked and improved actively in this practice. While maintaining your posture during the second slot of the meditation, we focus our attention to do the forward counting of qualified rounds of breath, which constitute mindfully doing inhalation, mindfully doing permeation of the breath in the body, and mindfully exhaling the carbon out. As you do, follow this inhalation, permeation, exhalation that constitute one round. At the end of each exhalation, you count 1, and then next one 2, and 3, and so on. But it has to have the content of each qualified doing the inhalation, knowing what to think, seeing the oxygen, feeling the benefit of the good inhalation. Likewise with permeation, it completely floods your whole body. See the red blood cells inundating whole body, rejuvenating. And then as you exhale, you need to bring the carbon of tiredness, worries, sadness, pain, or discomfort, or whatever it is, in one out breath. Mindfully feel relieved. In this way, you qualified each round of breath with a conscious doing, knowing, seeing, and feeling. And preferably stay doing each round and not forgetting to count forward without losing the count, so that your attention is really fixed so well that you're not losing the count, you're not compromising the contents of the mindfulness of seeing, doing, knowing, feeling, so that you are not distracted by things or becoming dull or feeling lazy or forgetting what to do, but you're doing just what you have delegated to do mindfully. Should you lose the count and come to know that you have lost the count, don't get agitated by it. Take a conscious mini break and start again. If you succeed to do each round of breath without losing the count, take the counting as far, as high as you can without taking any mini break. Occasionally check your posture, particularly your back, without losing your overall attention to doing forward counting of qualified rounds of breath. Sharpening your concentration even more. Now we do the super qualify round, which means we need to become a bit more conscious of the incoming breath as a descending air, and permeating air is a filling air, and outgoing air as ascending. So you try to feel the passage, the downward passage, inhaling, and filling passage when you permeate, and then the ascending of the air through your throat, going down the nostril. So try to notice greater resolution in your super qualified round breathing, but do the reverse counting. This time you may count reverse, say from 50, and then 49, and then 48, so that you do not lose the count, and also reverse counting, but at the same time try to increase the greater resolution and clarity of your awareness, and therefore the concentration. So it gives no room for the mind to wander off, or forget, or bored, or become dull. That's not calm abiding. So one needs to persevere as best as possible with the highest quality of attention, with the super qualified round breathing, doing reverse counting. Welcome back, everyone. I don't know how Facebook people have joined us or not. Have they? At least we have Zoom. Yeah. Okay, good. If there's any question, please, those of you on Zoom, please put in the chat box if any related questions, and I'll also try to access any question that comes through the Facebook. The whole idea of this session is to be as interactive as possible. So the theme of these talks is related to very much what we've been doing, the meditation practice, first of all. The meditation practice that you do is try to boost your sense of sanity and develop good insight into life's issues or realities that you may face. And so this morning, I'm specifically going to talk in relation to the how much our modern contemporary people value or seek individualism, and what does Buddhism think about individualism from the point of view of for the personal individual progress, how important it is to have some degree of individualism and freedom, but at the same time, the drawbacks of becoming totally too individualistic, so that one strikes a good balance between being an individual but not totally become individualistic, and therefore try to seek some kind of freedom from everyone, as if you're going to be better off on your own. A lot of people have this freedom, and individualism is some kind of dreams people want to have, so that they want to have freedom. But what does the freedom they're talking about? What is the individualism? In Buddhism, of course, when Buddha, as a young prince Siddhartha, walked off his home and went in search of enlightenment, peace, it was probably looked like you can only gain enlightenment if you have freedom from everybody's demands and attentions and expectation of you. But I think he had one very big expectation that was from himself. He expected his life to be bigger than his life, because his life was already big as a king, and he couldn't do much. He was supposed to be the king that looks after well-being of everybody, but he realized his own impending old age, sickness, death, parting from the loved one, all of these things weighed on him as completely powerless king. King had no power over all of those things. So he was wondering whether there is a way to end these miseries. So therefore, freedom is to seek freedom from misery. And even individualism, when we do spend some time in isolation, Buddha himself did spend in complete 6 years of isolation. So there's definitely a great, I would say, value for having the space for yourself, and so that you do not consort with deluded people more than yourself. One deluded person is bad enough. Is a handful already. You don't need to double up with another person's expectation and so on. So being able to adopt the solitary life of a monastic was highly sort of said to be daring to be different, I suppose, because most people can't cope just being alone, The whole idea of they just have to be with people. They just want to do things for each other, and they want to be of benefit to others, and so on. And so the idea that you go in solitude on your own for your own personal liberation or enlightenment was highly kind of aspired and cherished, but very few could do it. Very few could do it. And so those who did succeed to practice pure renunciation from self-centeredness and wanting to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others is true individualism. That is true enlightenment. So you can say through good kind of individual discipline, you can only achieve enlightenment as long as you do not have to put up with demands of many other people. You have complete freedom or when to eat, what not to eat, where you will put the plate, how you put the plate, how you dry the plate. And where you put the spoon, how do you put the spoon? You don't have to argue with anybody. you just can probably eat with hands and not even have any cutleries. So much freedom from everybody's expectation. So you can imagine how much freedom there must be in simplicity. But at the same time, later on in Buddha's teaching, he did teach that there is a practice called Prateka Buddhayana, these solitary realizers. People actually achieve enlightenment only by away from others' influence, once you have adequate knowledge and practices. But should you just do the practice on your own for your own enlightenment without any intention to benefit others, later on in Buddhism, the Prateka Buddha, meaning solitary realizers, or those who practice in solitude for themselves and also do not quite believe that they can help others as much. Therefore, they primarily focus on their own individualistic enlightenment. Is considered to be people of what you call short-sighted mentality, because they only think for themselves. So they call lesser vehicle or lesser mentality. People of low mentality think of themselves to attain enlightenment. So therefore, his own attainment enlightenment was not individualism, but actually for humanism. Or you can call it for sentient beingism. You can call it for all sentient beings. To say humanism is a very Judeo-Christian terminology. We call in Mahayana Buddhism for all sentient beings. For Buddha, attain enlightenment for all sentient beings. So therefore, his enlightenment is not individualism per se, but however the training during which he lived in solitude and did the meditation, he did so without any aid, without any person to do his shopping, without any person to bring his water, or none of that. These days, all the retreats is very complicated. One who does the shopping, one who does the so complicated. So it's very, very difficult to live such a life of a mendicant, really a hermit, basically a hermit. And in Tibet we had very few who could do that. Milarepa probably is alone who did succeed that. Others did, but they always have number of people who will support, bring you food and bring you supplies and then all the rest. So their life become too comfortable in the cave. Because they say, I want this brand of butter. I don't want Amul, the ordinary Indian one. I want this kind of brand of butter. So the retreatants putting all this to the list of what he want, That's already his retreat is jeopardized. When his desires for this, desire for that, So individualism who have completely renounced anything for themselves. Therefore, they have actually renounced self or comfort or particular things for themselves or particular food. They don't have any desire. They have basically are free from desire for me, desire for body, desire for now, desire for this life. They have completely renounced selfishness, nowness, and physicalness. So they basically develop freedom from self and freedom from me, freedom from the body. You know, they are not minding the bodily experiences. They are not thinking of themselves. They're not thinking of today. They're thinking of for others and future and for the mind stream. So if any practitioner were to succeed to do a retreat or meditation with these three good intentions, the altruistic intention for the benefit of others, for the future, and for the mind stream. So this is exact opposite for the body, me, and now. Usually most people who are individualistic are actually say, I want my way, that's it. So, and I want it now, they call it. Not tomorrow, not next life. They're very impatient. They want it now, and they want it something that is pleasant to the body, and I, the first person. So these three driven individualism is exactly what Buddha was talking about, people who are seeking individualism for themselves. They usually are very selfish, and they do not learn any purpose or meaning of spirituality in the process, because whole practice of spirituality is to forget the self and to be on the service of others as a bodhisattva, so try to serve others. And so even when the Buddha did his 6-year meditation, he did so that he can serve fully after that. Of course, he successfully attained enlightenment, and then he served. He's serving even now, 2,600 years. He's never stopped serving ever since then, because it was not done with individualistic motivation. So the individualistic motivation is actually quite cause of all the sufferings. From the Mahayana point of view, there's all the setbacks, all the sufferings, all the problems, all the difficulties we go through, all due to selfishness. And so if one is doing something individualistic just for oneself, there's hardly anyone you are answerable to, hardly anybody you fear for or you concerned about. You only want to just do whatever you like. Because of that I, the capital I, and it doesn't help with the word individualistic with that, also happen to be I. So I'm individualistic. So individualism and I is actually a taboo. You basically have to forget self. Mahayana path, the whole idea of Mahayana path is you have to forget the self, and it's all problems are caused by selfishness, which you have to basically do for the sake of others. Even you do retreat, even you do a solitary retreat, even you do training, even you do a lot of other things, study, meditate, observe discipline, whatever you do it for the sake of others. And that is really Buddhist, generally Buddhist, and particularly Mahayana Buddhist insight is when you do things for others, you will be happy. All happiness, delight, success, gratitude, all things comes from when you do it totally for the sake of others, altruistically. So therefore, individualism has no space, people who want to practice altruism. So altruism is the antidote to individualism. So individualism, for selfish purposes, is the root cause of all the sufferings. From the Mahayana Buddhist point of view, the true origin of suffering is selfishness. They don't even say ignorance. They don't even say desire. They don't even say craving. They say selfishness. In the pan-Buddhist, normal Buddhist teaching, they say true origin of suffering is desire or craving or hatred or ignorance. They will say that as more like cognitively or afflictively. They say afflictions are cause of suffering, cognitive. But the Mahayana point of view says the true cause of suffering is wrong attitude of thinking of self. So that's why it is important to understand how do you prioritize the well-being of others, and how do you balance the because when you prioritize well-beings of others, according to the Mahayana Buddhism, if you think of the sake of others, your first person's intention and needs are automatically met by it, you know. So that's why it is, one has to know that by being individualistic, we actually succeed to become lonely. We succeed to become selfish. We succeed to think of for ourselves, and as a result of that, we don't have the power to empathize other people or needs of others people, or considerate to other people, because one is only thinking of oneself. So it is causes of when you have been considerate of other people, empathetic to other people, concerned for other people, you actually have been sane. You know, even meditation is so that you can become this. Even the discipline you observe, even you don't do this, you don't do that, you observe many things, it is so that you can be empathetic, kind, tolerant, and compassionate to the other. So therefore, the person, the individual, has to be strong enough to be able to see the virtue of doing all the above for the sake of others. So actually, our usefulness, our happiness, only comes when we have someone for whom we can do something for. People who are miserable are usually just thinking of themselves. Those who have commitment to do things for the mother or the sister or the brother or husband or friend or community, what we call Sangha, they usually have life purpose to live, because they have so much things they have commitment to do for, do with, support and so on. Their life has a purpose to live, otherwise they're feeding for nothing. Feeding for nothing. So therefore, one who is connected with community, we call Sangha. Sangha means that you work with the community, not necessarily in the religious community. We're talking about you work rather in your local school library or school canteen, or wherever there is a necessity, you go and participate, or you go and help whatever you can do. When you are doing something for the sake of others, then even though the trainings and study you did actually become useful, so that you can actually dispense your knowledge, your skill to benefit somebody, because you're doing with and for other people. When you're doing for yourself and for other people and with other people, then you also have a preference of choice, who you want to do it for, who you want to work with. And some people's influence are not good. So therefore, one needs to be selective in terms of whose influence is good for me, whose influence is not really even beneficial for myself to be useful to others. So some people depletes your energy because they're so negative and so poisonous. So if people have reason to avoid somebody because of their negative interaction, of course individualism has a reason for some people, because they don't want to associate with some people. More they consort with people, more the problem they gets into. So therefore, those with whom who you love or who you respect, who you look up to, who you do things for each other, then you develop a friendship, and then you develop a mutual commitment to do something together for the greater good of the whatever community is. And that is what we call Sangha. So when people have the community, some kind of community, whether it's some people might be ethnic community, other people might be language community, other people might be, like some hobby, other people might be spiritual community, whatever community to which we become party to, we have life. Now we have life, because if you haven't got anything happening, you're not doing for someone, you're not doing anything with other people for other people. Because of that, your life has got no agenda that is useful. But what's the purpose of feeding? Even cows we feed for a reason, so that we can milk them. We don't feed cows just to feed the cows. So everything has a purpose. So what are we doing by feeding and clothing and washing and keeping in this expensive real estate, Why are we paying so much rent? What are we doing? What is the objectives? So if we just feeding and excreting, it's no different than cows. Even wild animals can do that. So therefore, even they like to live in herd. Except some wild animals, they only live almost by themselves. They don't have hardly got any herd. When they have herd, they attack each other. So even animals, when they have when a neighbor's dog sees other dog, they're so excited. They've been kept in their yard whole day, few days. They never seen any other dog. And the people don't thrive very well. They die out of depression. Because when they meet each other, do things for each other, then they interact and they learn, they realize they are valued and they're needed and so on. So that's why it is important to know that we should always feel connected to some kind of community. I think I'll take one question here in the chat box, from Bettina. George, she has to leave. How does one balance renouncing the body and maintaining its health as precious vehicle? Of course, Bettina, body is very, very important. The neglectfulness of the body is not because people are doing too much spirituality. It's because people become so attached to me, and they're eating too much. They don't realize how much it's harming their body. So the balance of health and the body, of course, is in most people's priorities always like that. Those people who have turned 65 plus, they know they always have doctor's appointment. They have doctor's appointment. They have doctor's appointment. And so their job is just to keep up the appointment, and says you shouldn't do this, do a bit of exercise, cut down that bit. They're doing that, So people are always conscious of health, at least when they're getting after 65. Before, when they're young, they never looked after. They ate the wrong stuff. They ate everything that is delicious and sweet. Not only what is still sweet and delicious, but too much a quantity, and that's how they have huge weight or a lot of cholesterol problem. Where does the problem come? They drink too much sweet things. They eat fatty, delicious food. They don't realize how harmful that it is. So people don't really look after their health at all. But yet they want to look good or tall or thin or something just so that they can attract some deluded people. So the body is become more like a mask. They just the people are not able to look after their health very much. They become so obsessive about their appearance and their body. So they're actually ruining the body by doing too much of this, not enough of that. Of course, if they learn to look after the health of the body, of course, there is no danger of people not looking after the body when they know their body is very important. Most important thing that we have is this body, this life. If this health is not taken into consideration, of course we are not alive. We are not alive. They say when the pig is fed to be butchered, the pig thinks he's happy. He's so happy he's fed so much. He doesn't realize the more he gets fed, the sooner he will be slaughtered. A lot of people are like pigs. They're eating so much to the extent of putting so much weight, so much harm to their body. They don't realize that bad eating habits is going to kill themselves. So, of course, if life is precious, it's because this body is still alive as a container, And our consciousness is never going to die. Its consciousness is just going to be expelled by the body when they say, "Look, we are closing down. You want to live, or you have to go somewhere else." So when we talk about death, means the body collapses its ability to hold. All the solid, gas, and liquid can no longer, put together, hold that life together. So that means, of course, the health of the body is very important. But one thing that's inevitable for the body is to collapse, to die, to disintegrate. There is no inevitable health. It's inevitable death. Death is inevitable. There is no inevitable health. Health is only relative, but no matter how healthy you live, no matter how concerned you are, how many hours you spend in gyms, how many kind of diets you practice, still you will die. still you will die. So death cannot be stopped by looking after too much of a health. So sure, we all try to do very much, but many people have life insurance, but no life insurance saved anybody from dying. All life insurance. What life insurance done is made that insurance companies very rich. It hasn't really made anybody's life not to die. So life insurance is a bit of a deception, really. And if we become just committed contributor to the companies, and then when it comes to claim, they hardly make you worthy of claiming. They say, oh, you should read the small prints, they call it. All the small prints makes you. So basically, it's almost in the small prints written that you will die, you will just pay, and it will never buy life insurance because your life will die anyway. So how much health is health? Every day, if we try to do something useful each day, so that not excessively indulging in the body, but the benefit of the spirit and consciousness, and the body itself is well looked after in terms of its maintenance concern, you may call it. Quite a lot of people take like I get this now. It's 2 years since I get this reminder from the bowel cancer organization. They always send this kit. All the men, I'm sure the women get some other kit too. They send you automatically, automatically. You got every 6 months you got to check your bowel. You have to do the test. Yeah, they know your body is incrementally deteriorating. No matter how many exercise you do, no matter how many what you do, your body is basically disintegrating. So we can definitely look after the bodily well-being. We probably we are much more informed about anatomy and physiology and various alternative medicine and diet and all of this. I think our last 50 years, people in the last 5 decades have enjoyed much more benefit than our forefathers would have any of that. So we actually are a recipient of and beneficiary of all the work that has gone in health. And so therefore, but health is determined by merit, karma, and your lifespan, So if you don't create merit, if you did not create good merit in the past life or earlier in this life, you will suffer quick deterioration of the body and die young. And the fact that people are staying old and senior and still healthy is because they have a merit and karma that warranted for us to live this long. Some people don't die of any sickness; they just die of old age. They're just too old to die, old to live, and so you cannot. People have good health. Yeah, they didn't die of any disease only by old age. Yeah. So that's pretty good, really. Quite a lot of people die just because they are too old. You can see they're deteriorating from month to month. Otherwise, there's no real major physical symptoms of major, just because all the parts are too old to replace. So, but there's nothing fundamentally wrong. So quite a lot of people are those who die in old age probably have lived a very balanced life. They're healthy, they exercise, they do good karma, and they do meritorious things. They don't harm the body, and as a result of that, and they also do good things with other people, for other people, and more we do things for other people or other sentient beings, that actually is more meritorious. Then our health has risen. Otherwise, we're healthy so that we can fight other people, or what? What is the health for? They only admit healthy people in the army. So that we are so healthy that we can join the army or something. What's the point of keeping healthy, So health has to also have a reason, 'Cause a lot of people, healthy people, cause most of the problems. Those people who are decrepit and old and disabled, they don't do any harm in the streets. All the healthy people are the one who's having brawls in the clubs and pubs. Did you notice that? So don't get too excited about what is health. There's no, So sometimes people's ill health kept them out of mischief. A lot of people with healthy body, then they go and do so much damage to themselves and others. And so that's why it is important to see a lot of people, therefore, are able to look after the physical well-being to the complete neglect of your spiritual well-being. If people have just as enough, even a part of the commitment for the spiritual well-being as much as they have for the body, people will stand a good chance to have a very happy and very balanced life. But people not. The physical culture is so big. Every major street corner in big cities got a gym, And you could see how everybody's so conscious of health, but how many are conscious of wisdom? Last year I went to Darwin and give a talk at the university there, and a couple of old friends there. They were all university lecturers in education, and they wanted me to talk on education and wisdom. Yeah, even in education, it's become very, 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 very competitive education. Or, my original work, that kind of possessiveness, so corrosive for the health. Even education has become very corrosive to the very health of the people. So how can we bring wisdom into education? We definitely seem to be not being able to bring wisdom into health. But if we can't bring wisdom into education, there's hardly any, because everybody's turning away from religion as if it was no, not for me, thank you. People are turning away. Quite a lot of people are turning away from religions as they're too educated. Too educated. Yeah, they're too educated. They're too intelligent to be believing in anything. So they read books and they wrote books and they know about many things. They know so much, and they know so much and become very, very destructive for their emotional well-being. So when there's no balance, even education, the most first world countries has the highest number of people who are highly educated, and there we have the highest level of suicide. Why? So that shows this self-centered education, that I need to get on the top, I need to get high mark, I need to achieve this much to be worthy of my parents' expectation, fulfill their wishes, he be proud of me because I did this. People are so materialistic educationally, and that's very corrosive. So when we talk, Buddha's teaching is all about middle way. Even education, if you don't have middle way, if you don't have balance, it could be quite counterproductive for the very well-being of the person who is very educated. He's very educated in some science subject, but he doesn't know anything about his emotion. He doesn't know how to say sorry or forgive me to their mother or father. They just have a small little issue. They made it such a big issue, and they are locked ahead with. They keep that problem, and they're just nursing that as if it's fundamentally fault of the mother, or for worse still themselves. They're so rigid because they're taught to look for facts that truly exist. No facts are not truly existing. All facts are fictitiously framed as they are truly exist. They are composite of many, many factors. History is not exactly what things happen. It's an opinion of the historian. You see? Likewise, all the things that people think they know, then the knower is no better with his knowledge. He's now subservient to his knowledge. So the mind that knows so much, but so little about itself. So that's what the Buddha took the path of individualism to get away from all of this burden of expectation, how much he should perform as a king. He just wanted to go and search what he wanted to do in his life, and therefore his enlightenment became the cause of sanity, of middle way. Bring some balance between your knowledge, or between your success, between your health and real well-being, between your education and real wisdom, between your monetary value and what you really need. Most people become wealthy when they die. They stay very miserable throughout the whole life. They just hoard and they keep and they put in the dividends, they put in the bank, they put in there, they put in there. In the meantime, and then their senses all go very, very sort of old, and they can't enjoy any of the things. They think they are rich, and then they all drop dead, wealthy. What did the wealth serve them? Nothing. They didn't get to do things for give stupid. Some people do, but majority of people, we even hear in the monasteries, monks are dying. Old monk died, but under his pillow they discovered a couple 100,000 rupees. I mean, that's terrible, isn't it? We were told the monks shouldn't even touch money, that we have monks who have put weights of notes of rupees under the pillow. So they haven't really realized that they should give those things for good causes. But they still have to think, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. Always thinking of I. And then in the meantime, one enslave oneself to work so much to gain or earn or save something. In the meantime, they fail to give for causes, or they cannot repay the kindness of those who they're indebted to. And emotionally, they really are in tatters. And a lot of people therefore have feel very insane, how that, because whole society is like a huge group, all kind of promoting individualism and success and freedom. But what kind of individualism, what kind of success is success, freedom is freedom? In Buddhism, the freedom from suffering and its causes, not freedom from poverty or freedom from actually the vow of monastics vow is in the West, in monastic vow they call it vow of poverty. In Buddhism we don't call it vow of poverty, we call it vow of simplicity. It's a simplicity, being able to moderate one's craving or contain them, and then one becomes sane, because one really doesn't need much. If you really were to live kind of properly and healthily, you don't really need much. You don't really need much. If you go there, eat there, do this, all these funny shows, funny jumps. Spend $1,700 just for that, $400 for that, $600 for the car hire. And then, you don't have enough of that. If you just sit on your cushion and have some cereal in the morning, a couple of potatoes in a day, and soup in the evening, what's going to cost? It's not going to cost that much. You just have to learn how to moderate. So we need to, therefore, have this degree of balance in terms of how to moderate one's life in relation to the practice. So the whole idea of looking for some questions, if there are any here on the Facebook. Yes, couple of things from here on Facebook. Gail always makes. Gail is from Stanhope. Hello, Gail. I have to look after my body without diabetes research coming forward. In leaps and bounds, I would be dead. Yeah, that's what she says. Yeah, she would have been long time ago dead if it wasn't the diabetes medicine. And so, yeah, she says, yes, back in the 80s, insulin came from the pig's pancreas. So that shows that your insulin came from pancreas of the pigs. But these days, I think they have other sources from which they make. You wouldn't believe what comes from what. In Buddhism, we call true origin. True origin of suffering. You didn't believe it came from your own ignorance. We always think it came from somebody else. So all sicknesses, of course, all the medicine come from something else. All the medicine come from something else. All the problem come from selfishness and ignorance. So being able to understand this, the sanity, when we talk about how to create the causes of sanity, is being able to moderate one's emphasis on freedom, individualism, and then try to give in time to people and society. So those who are doing things with people, you can see they're really looking forward to that letter they're writing or thing they send or thing they're doing with, and even 3 days later you're going to do. People get really excited, all 3 days, only things going to happen after 3 days. Person get really excited. People got to have some events, something got to be on. They got to do things. That's why this pandemic has put quite a lot of stress on many people. People can't stand being alone and stuck in a place. They want to have purpose to go and do things with and for each other. Nowadays, technologically, we are somewhat compensated by being able to do like Zoom sessions. Because we're so used to coming and meeting, we say welcome or something like that. Actually, nobody came anywhere. Everybody just sat in their room. We should say, well, Zooming. Hello, well, Zoom. Now we should say, well, Zooming. well, Zooming. We just out of the blue, through the rays of the sun, we all came. We are pretty miraculous from that point of view. So we don't have to feel so alienated from each other, and people really need even this level of interaction. Otherwise, they definitely don't survive very well. Others who are very, very disciplined to do their meditation or something, writing, or some people deliberately need privacy. They just succeed very well when they are done by themselves. They get to write, they get to translate, they get to edit, they get to paint, they get to sew, or whatever they do. Some things are only done when you have nobody around. I know somebody who does quilt making up north, and yeah, she says, I'm so glad there's nobody home. I can do the quilt. But her quilt is not for herself. She's always donating the proceeds of the quilt for the local dispensary or like that. It's so beautiful, So she's never making the quilt for herself. How many quilts does she need, She's making the quilt on her own, but goes to donate to local library or whatever charity organization she feels very strong to, So that's really good, So therefore, some things are done. Like the Buddha also did enlightenment by himself, but so that he can give it to other people. But when he did, he gave it to other people, of course. Then the ripple effect has come this far, You see, so it's the intention. If one is doing for oneself, so the Buddha said those people who seek enlightenment for themselves, for their own nirvana, they don't benefit others a lot. So he emphasized those who wish to maximize their benefit, they should think of doing some things privately. Some things definitely you have to do privately, and they're called toilet. The toilet is where you do private thing, But other things you have to do with people. Dining is never, you don't call a single person eating place dining room. You always do eat with 4 or 5 people, or 3 or 4 people. Usually tables at least have 4. Some has 2 only. There's hardly only 1 table with single chair, There are some people who just go eat by themselves because they haven't got anyone to invite, or nobody invited them, so they have to always invite themselves. Nothing wrong with that, But it's interesting, sometimes when sometimes it's like that. when I hardly go out anyway, but when I just may decide to have a lunch or somewhere in the restaurant, hardly I have to sit by myself, Anyway, there's 4 people, 6 people, at least 2 people. And the restaurant people don't know where to put because we are a bit of a misfit, You probably get a sandwich and disappear. But usually society expects people to go together and cook for somebody else. Most people are really happy they have someone to cook for, at least once in a blue moon. It's really good. And otherwise, what all those half a dozen, all those recipe books, what are you going to do? So that you say that you got all these recipe books, but you never cook for anybody. So you learn so much, but you don't teach anybody, show anybody. You don't have what is your knowledge, for? What is all that information for? So we have to make ourselves useful for the benefit of others before we stop breathing, So therefore we cannot be so attached to being individualistic and private. We have to always come out and do things with and for people, always leave something behind for people, because you have been active in and so far as what you've been doing in the society you become party to. So Buddha, even though he spent 6 years in solitude, but after that he had no time for solitude. After that, he was always surrounded first by 5 very, very reluctant monks, then hundreds of them. Afterwards, there were hundreds of them. First was the most reluctant one. When the first 5 reluctant got enlightened by listening to him, then everybody flocked to him. Wherever he went, they just all followed. They all followed. Everybody invited Buddha, and Buddha said, "Are you sure I'm going to have 500 monks with me?" They said, "Oh yes, of course. By the way, bring them all." So there very few people could just invite Buddha just like that, and just order a table for 2, When they invited Buddha, meant 500 monks, because he was always with the Sangha. He was always Sangha. He was always talking about in the Sangha in relation to who was in their past lives, why they have this present relationship too. And people just couldn't wait to hear the stories. Yeah, the joy of who was what in someone's life to each other. So Catherine is asking, what is well-being? Of course, well-being is a mind that is absence of enmity and greed and ignorance. That's probably the real well-being is. It's not that you don't have a itchy skin, or you don't have a bad hips, or you don't have a crooked elbow or whatever. You will have all of those. Well, you have all those signs of physical wear and tear. But real well-being is you're not attached to the body as me, and therefore you have no desire and craving for me who want to have a straight finger or something. When you don't, all the fingers are getting crooked one after another. So your fingers, all of your fingers might be crooked, your back might be hunched, you maybe have speech may be stuttering, your eyes may be not seeing very well, but you still have a lot of gratitude, absence of ill will, and and have no complaint of anything in your life, not because there aren't some things that you don't get, but you have fair good share of better than many people. So well-being is really absence of ill will. I think that would be the real highest form of ill will. You have medical condition, but that's a medical condition. That doesn't mean you have to be sick. People may have pain, but they don't have to be sick in the head. People may have to swallow 12 tablets every morning, but doesn't mean they have to be lacking well-being. Well-being is gratitude, contentment, and not complaining everything in life, just thanking in life. Lack of ill will. You see, very beautiful. You wouldn't believe how well you sleep. you wouldn't believe how everything looks good when you have no ill will. The real well-being is absence of ill will. That's what in Nagarjuna says, macha midang timuk mes, lack of desire, lack of hatred, lack of ignorance. These are the virtues. So virtues is one who has the well-being, So it doesn't say, oh, you shouldn't have old age, you shouldn't have sick physical condition, you shouldn't have medical condition. That's virtue. It doesn't say that. It says, if you don't have craving, you have no ill will, no ignorance, and that is virtuous. One who's virtuous usually has well-being, The physical condition will even the Buddha's holy body suffered the ailments of the indigestion of a food that was offered, and then they say he died from the indigestion. So there's, of course, we have to have something to blame too when we die. But those practitioners who have no angst, no aversion, no hatred, no resentment, they are true monks. True monks are those who don't have ill will. True monks are not necessarily someone who's shaven and looks looks very orange or yellow or whatever. There's one true monks means doesn't have to be monk. There could be women too. True monks are those who have no ill will. So that's why well-being is indeed not absence of illness, not absence of old age, not absence of all these ups and downs of samsaric conditions. You will have all of that. But that's not sign of illness. That's not sign of sickness. That's a sign of samsara. You will have sickness. But one who doesn't complain about sickness, one who doesn't complain about me not having this, one sees that as a nature of all existence, and who doesn't have a litany of things to complain about. He just feels contented with his own mind, and he has contentment. Therefore, he has no craving, and he has no animosity. Therefore, he's really well, And he's not ignorant. He knows everything's interdependent originated, and that's best of well-being. So that's why Nagarjuna says that one who is free of these three poisons is virtuous. One whose virtues is well, is indeed well. And all those practitioners who practice well-being, when they die, the body turns relics. The body leaves many, many relics because the body has this what we call remains. Remains become like a repository of symbol of their body. Even though their body was old and frail and they were weak when they were dying, but actual body after cremation left many, many relics that are like gems or pearls, like things, or some statues, some seed syllables, amazing, magnificent things you discover among the debris of in the ashes of cremations. Why? Because their mind lacked such wrong views and non-virtuous thoughts. That's a real well-being, So the true monk, there's one chapter in the Dhammapada called "What is True Monk?" True monk is one who has no ill will. So it means well-being. Indeed, you definitely are well. Not because you haven't got any medical condition. You don't have any mental condition. You don't have any cognitive condition that makes yourself sick. That is true well-being. Well-being is not absence of illness, not absence of bad back, not absence of bowel cancer, not absence of any kind of bone condition. That's not well-being. That's just physical condition. Wellness is whereby you do not attach yourself with the body as permanent, true, and satisfactory. They are not. Body is miraculously strong to hold as long as it held, but otherwise it's transient. It is full of gas and liquid and solid and kept together with 7 layers of skin. and it's not puncturing just yet. That's pretty good, really. So the body is quite amazing, really, wear and tear, and you don't get attached to them. So absence of ill will is true well-being. How do you know? Because you can see the person whose physical condition is like that, but his mind don't complain about these things. His mind doesn't get frustrated by his physical condition. He accepts them as a nature of reality as it is, nature of human body as it is. He's pretty surprised that he woke up this morning without dying last night, Not because he had a terrible medical condition last night. No, even just to be alive again today is treated with great wonder, and with such kind of awareness of impermanence of things, and not shocked by impermanence, not shocked by dissatisfactory situation in life, and accept them as a norm of life, and always look in the nature of things for what they truly are rather than what they appears. And so because of that, it's not well-being is where one sees everything for what they are and do not seek to change anything because they are always changing. Therefore, do not cling onto anything. Because even sicknesses are all caused by doing that. Sickness is caused by clinging, grasping, and aversive, and wrong views. Even sicknesses are caused by the lack of wellness in the head, wellness in the heart. So absence of right wisdom and compassion and contentment is cause of even the physical conditions, or even some of the severe physical ill health conditions caused by serious ill will, serious desire and craving and wanting and still mourning and still complaining what they didn't get, still what they want, still coveting things. This makes people really sick. They don't realize the real cause of their sickness is the attachment, ignorance, and aversion. And that's the teachings teaches, so that in your meditation, when you're doing the breathing, you actually can see the physics of your mind. You can see how the mind itself can learn to not create problems. It can actually see how it can create problems, how it does create problems. And therefore it learns how to not to repeat them, because in meditation you're able to see the workings of the mind, and then slowly learn to show a direction that it can take new steps on. In doing so, the thought and attitude of the person, not just about things, not about things, but what you think about things is more important. Yes, okay, we will finish it. One last question. Bettina is asking, does well-being require freedom from mental illness? Yes, I think it is probably not, would help if there was no mental illness, but most well-being does come from understanding the physics of the mind, mental illness. The mental illness is basically subjective kind of illiteracy of one's mind and emotions. So the mental illness is mainly a wrong view that one has of self and the other. And one is grasping body as self and impermanent things as permanent. So it's a completely misconception. All mental illness caused by misconceptions, not knowing them as misconception. And meditation teaches misconception as misconceptions. And when you recognize misconception as misconception, then we are able to put a little restraint from thinking particular way, because we can see what kind of thought, what kind of mental attitude cause what kind of illnesses in the mind or in the some people's mental illnesses might be not just yesterday or to today's thought, but maybe quite developed over many years. Some of them maybe medically say it's a genetic or upbringing, but from Buddhist point of view, all mental illnesses are misconception of self, and grasping it as the form or the color or the height or the profession or success and lack thereof, and fighting with it without accepting things as transient, impermanent, unsatisfactoriness. It tried to idolize itself to be something what is not. It mistakenly thinks itself with the form or the status or the income or the family they have or they don't have, and they misconceive them with others, or them with the form, or them with health, them with lack of this or too much of that. They don't realize all these things are part of the whole. There is none of the parts really constitute the whole. And so when one misconceives the body with the self, biggest misconception is people think the body is self. And then are people as what they see other as truly existing self. This misconception of grasping to aggregate as self is cause of all mental illnesses. So according to Buddhism, the mental illnesses is a problem that all sentient beings have. Not just in this life, from unresolved mental illness from past life has snowballed into this life. Now, in this conventional world, we will say who has mental illness, who doesn't have mental illness. We think 1 in 5 is too much. This is so intolerant society. But Buddhists would say, 5 in 5 there is mental illness. Simple as that. We should accept that. Because when you do that, then, because we're not talking about some medical condition that some doctors, some psychiatrists 50 years ago diagnosed, put that name to it, not like that. Even prior to all this diagnosis, sentient beings have all kinds of emotional problems and cognitive problems, some because they can't see, others they can't hear, others have some kind of various physical disabilities, and some have sensorial impairment, others have kind of a certain kind of mental impairment that society thinks is unusual. So we call them mental illness. So it's only, we like to have as few as possible with mental illnesses, But in Buddhism says all sentient beings are deluded. Simple as that. So that's why it's very difficult to have well-being without being able to understand the suffering of the mind. Understanding the suffering of the mind, that's what Buddha is so rare to come about. One who got enlightened taught all the nature of the mind and the sufferings it creates unconsciously, and therefore all the sufferings they don't want, they just find that only. Happiness they desire, they barely find it because they're misunderstanding all the time. They go for the poison as a medicine, and even it's a poison. It's written in the poison. Some of the bottles have actually written poison. Little bit red one, it's tiny letter. It's written poison. They don't serve. They're not allowed to sell people under 18. But they're able to sell to the 18. That's terrible. They shouldn't be able to sell to any age, if it's so dangerous to sell to people of young age, it should be even more dangerous to sell to anybody, because people who are above 18 are not much saner than the 18 anyway. So why are they safe to sell? So there are a lot of things are poison, but people don't see they are poison. They can read it, but they just ignore it. In cigarette. And so you can see the cigarette, how many people's death is caused by smoke-related death and drinking-related. It's all written in the packet as poison and so on. Still, people still don't read it, don't see, think as they say it. Why? Because they're poison blind. They're all poison blind. They're not color blind. They're poison blind. They cannot see the poison. They get lured into it, by it, and because of that, they have one too many misconceptions. They thought poison was a medicine was poison, therefore this was that, but they misunderstood body with self, name with self, gender with self. We have only two genders, they're dividing it up. They're causing fighting between two miserable genders. I mean, if there were maybe a couple of hundreds of different genders, we probably can afford to play with some and reject few and just make a little party for ourselves, There's only two genders, and they're always dividing it, always making it a gender issue, and then cause rift in every little community. They say, we don't have enough women in this in the leadership. Sometimes some people call it. I remember years ago there was a funny lady. She said, you don't have any women in the leadership. You have all the Ron and Rob and Rod. They said we had too many men who are all Ron and Rob and Rod and whatever. It's because I was thinking, gosh, what is this attitude comes from? So when the whole community is divided by like that, it's another misconception because of the tiny little difference they make, as this is that and that is that, and because of that, it widens the gulf of all the misunderstanding. So that's why mental illness is indispensable. Understanding of that's what Buddha said, suffering must be understood. Mental illness is a suffering, it has to be understood. When we understand mental illnesses, then all the people who are trained in psychology and psychiatry and all the social kind of service works, and they try to understand as much as what the textbook teaches, but they haven't actually looked at their own emotions. So that's why it's very difficult for most of the mental health area. They're only using clinical behavioral study of animals or rats, something like that, and they haven't actually looked. Nowadays we have positive psychology coming, where people are more learning through the various spiritual tradition, whether what they can learn from the ancient spiritual wisdom, what kind of understanding. That's why Buddhist teachings are well received. As long as they don't have to take it as a religion. As long as they don't have to take a religion, they are quite willing to look into it. But they miss the point. They definitely miss the point. When they lump the religion with Buddhism, or as a religion has something fundamentally wrong, that's why they're missing the point. There definitely is a lot of work of the heart, work of the soul or the spirit of the person, and when they don't see that anything but the brain, that shows how still limited they are. Their ability to understand with the use of the five sense devices. You cannot understand the mind. Mind has to be only metacognitively, subjectively understood through understanding one's own mind, and then how everything is a reflection of that. When one understands that, then one can understand other sentient beings, their problems, because they too are reflecting in this way. So that's why the wellness totally depends on understanding of mental illnesses. But those who understand mental illness have to be daring enough to spend considerable time, like the Buddha did, in years of self kind of isolated meditation practice, and come to realize through their subjective experiential meditation. Then of course, Buddha is the ultimate psychiatrist. Buddha is the ultimate physician because he understands the mental illness best. And therefore his teaching is called medicine. It's medicine for the mind. It's not a pill-popping medicine. It's not a tablet-orientated medicine. It's like a thought transformation medicine. It's how to transform one's thoughts. So learning this thought produce this negative emotion, this thought produce this kind of perception, projection, and you should undo that. You should produce this thought of gratitude, kindness, try to rekindle the lost memories of the kindness that you've been bestowed upon by your mother or something. Most people haven't really repaired the relationship with the mother or the father, and therefore they carry this huge scar, and they're always reflecting and projecting that onto anyone wherever they go, and that's why it becomes the shadow over their head. Those who haven't done that inner work to rekindle their love with the mother or the father or someone and overcome the ill will and resentment and misunderstanding, they do not know how to deal with mental patient or mental illness because they actually haven't understood the positive psychology and actual how the use of it is a medicine. It's not a medicine as a pill or an ointment or drink. Rather, it's a changing of your thought and attitude, and subjectively knowing what thought should go, what thought should come in. And so this kind of thought transformation practices is usually best served in good discipline deriving through the mental clarity of meditation practice. So that's all we have time for. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your comments and questions, and a few more questions, comments, or thank you for your questions, some which we couldn't answer in this because there's a lot more than I could scroll down. But I'm sure I can address them next Sunday. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's join our hands in the heart and offer a little bit of prayer in this. We are coming to this very festive season. I'm sure you all have good reason to stay in put. Don't go to the northern beaches. even those of you who really are already in Sydney, don't get lured into those places. You never know what you're going to contract. Of course, this kind of disease, you have to go to places. But thought disease, you don't have to go to places. You can make them all in head. You don't even have to go to northern beaches to contract ill will. It's terrible, isn't it? So mind those thought contracted diseases in this festive season. Stay healthy, be kind to each other, and with this we do the dedication of marriage. Thank you very much. From the ocean, but Herenda Mahayana Dij, whatever merit I have, me because lovers to hold the Mahayana Dij, Jamba Bawaji Daranjamba. Kundu Sambu Deyan Dejendu Teda Kunye Jesu Dalaji Gewan Deda Danjeradu Chanju Senjorin Boji Ma Geba Nanye Juruji Geba Nyamba Mebai Kone Kondu Bewa. Thank you, everyone. Bye.